Hi everyone, my guest today is Jay Hessler. Jay is a great clarinet player, woodwind doubler here in New York City. He came by and we talked all things clarinet, clarinet tone, sound development, life balance as a freelance musician. He had some wonderful insights regarding his teacher, the great Ricardo Morales. He has his own YouTube channel called Clarinet Ninja that you should check out if you're so interested. I should tell you there was a little bit of audio difficulty I had first few minutes of this video. I'll try to do better in the future, but I'm just figuring this out as I go along. Hopefully you can bear with me. Yeah, please like and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and thanks for dropping by. Jay is a fantastic woodwind player, clarinet player. He's played in the Met Opera Orchestra, the Philly Orchestra, many Broadway shows, and most importantly, and I'm sure the highlight of his career, he was a part of a show 10 years ago called February House, which yours truly was also a part of that show, and we've been fast friends ever since. He's also the host of the popular and much informative YouTube channel, Clarinet Ninja. Jay, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Again, can you tell us a little bit about your journey from you grew up in Alaska? Where in Alaska?
In Anchorage.
Did you start on clarinet? Or?
Yeah, I started on clarinet in the fourth grade. I heard my sister play in the honors orchestra in sixth grade, and in the band, the clarinetist played solo. And I said to my mom, and she got me clarinet lessons the next day. And then from that point, the other nice thing about growing up in Alaska is scholarships were available to national things. I was part of the McDonald's All-American High School Band, which was, it's a huge thing, but there's obviously less competition from Alaska than there would be in New York, California, or just about any other state in the Union. So that was nice, and I was able to get scholarships to go to Interlochen for the summer, so 2 summers at National Music Camp there, which was
in Michigan.
Yeah, it was pretty transformative for me to be able to be around a bunch of other kids that were very interested in music. I also started playing the saxophone. My second year there, I ended up playing lead alto in the top jazz band, and that's what was really driving me to pursue music. Was that interest? From there, I went to Arizona State for a couple of years, studied clarinet there for a lot of reasons I won't talk about. I decided I didn't want to go to school there anymore, and I ended up moving out to California. And when I was in California, I studied with a great clarinet player named Bovyer, who everyone has heard play because he's been on one movie soundtrack after another. And he was very generous. He studied clarinet with Joe Allard. So one of the reasons that I was super excited to study with him was that I felt like the way he approached the clarinet would, in some way, shape, or form, translate into saxophone. But he was in any way giving me saxophone lessons or intending to give me saxophone lessons. What he did do was say, "Hey, do you want to study saxophone with Gary Foster? Here's his phone number." And that was a very kind and generous thing to do. That's it.
Tell us about Gary Bovyer.
Gary Bovyer is a clarinetist in Los Angeles who, when I was studying with him, he was principal clarinet of the Long Beach Symphony, which it's a significant sort of regional orchestra. And by the time I was finished studying with him, he was also principal of the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra. Was regularly on movie soundtracks and still is to this day. It was a situation where I was really wanting to learn how to play the clarinet and really wanted to sort of start over and recommit myself to learning how to play. And I also wanted to be in a place that had a thriving musical community.
Get a hold of Gary Foster.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was his scene like?
I think the best way to describe Gary. I mean, Gary is simultaneously like kind, generous, very gentle person, but also of anybody that I've ever met in our business, a person who doesn't need any money, doesn't need any work, and doesn't have to do anything he doesn't feel like. So the thing about spending time with Gary was that he absolutely wanted to do it. He didn't need 50 hours out of payment. And yet he also wasn't, he was a thoughtful person and a good teacher, but he wasn't a teacher first, he was a player first, right? He would just tell you what he did, what you should do, but it wasn't touchy-feely. Gary played with the original Toshiko Akiyoshi band for a long time and did lots of jazz work, but realized as a doubler, and a very good doubler, and as a clarinet player first, I believe, he really realized how much money there was to be made at that time. He was there in the golden era of when you could make a great deal of money as a musician in California. And one of the things he said that was super interesting was he was talking about Lou and Toshiko, Lou Tobacco and Toshiko Akiyoshi, and he said, "I really respect what they did because they're real jazz people." And what I interpreted from that, what I got from that at the time was there was a little tinge of like, you know, I made an incredible amount of money, but I left something on the table that I didn't focus on. And at that point, I don't know how old he was at that point. He was at that point doing as many jazz gigs as he possibly could because that's what he wanted to do, and he was trying to make more records. He's not the most known jazz player or the most like copied jazz player, but he certainly is a beautiful player and had it's a specific thing that you can really hear the roots of Lenny Tristano
Sure.
and the
Yeah, yeah.
Guns.
So you moved to LA. Why perhaps didn't you stay in like the LA area? You hooked up with all these amazing people.
It's a good question. I decided that I wanted to pursue clarinet as my primary thing. I just given up the saxophone as like what was really driving me, and I ended up getting into Manhattan School of Music with Ricardo Morales, and I decided that if I got to do this, then I was gonna
Commit full time.
Then I was gonna do this, and if not, I probably would have stayed in Los Angeles. I feel like every musician, every person, in like you think, okay, I'm choosing this or that, and I just wondered to myself at the time, like, is anyone going to see me as anything other than a student? And am I like, are these relationships going to transition into actually like a thing? At the time, I didn't have any interest in like having an orchestra job, which turned into a thing later, which I decided I wanted. So I freelancing was what I wanted to do.
All right, so you get this opportunity to come study with God, what was he like 23-year-old, a 24-year-old Ricardo Morales?
Well, we were both 26, same age.
I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, he is 2 months older than me, so that's something. No, so that was, at the time, I mean, Ricardo had won the Metropolitan Opera at 21 years old, and to break that down, he'd been playing the clarinet for 10 years. Looking at that situation, I was like, well, if there's a person that's got this figured out, there it is. There's that person. I felt lucky to be able to study with him. It was also interesting, kind of reflecting back to Gary Foster. I mean, Ricardo has definitely, and even at the time, had spent a lot of time trying to figure out how he was able to do what he did. But he wasn't teaching what he learned. He was thinking back on, okay, what am I doing? I'll tell you, and I'll tell anyone that's watching, Ricardo's secret. Ricardo did the Elementary Training for Musicians, a book by Paul Hindeman. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Okay.
It's a very serious sight singing and rhythm training book that it's a misnomer that they put the word elementary training, because the first pages are like, oh, it's nice, and then it's really hard. It's really hard. And he did the Hindeman book as a kid, and he also played in his family salsa band, played bongos. So his time is incredible. His control over time is amazing, and he I think this might be myth. I'm gonna tell it anyway. I think he didn't have a clarinet and wanted to take clarinet lessons, so he went and watched somebody take clarinet lessons for a year, and then got a clarinet and could play it. And he was very driven. He tells the story. I don't know if you're into Simon Sinek and like to start with why, like that, but like the people that are successful that can that can accomplish great things. Whether you're talking about Martin Luther King Jr. or Steve Jobs, they have a why that is so present they can get people to go with them stuff. And Ricardo's why about why he plays the clarinet is so deep. It's stunning to see. And in lessons, it can be quite frustrating because when you're working on an excerpt, you practice. Okay. I'm going to play the Hemistera variation. I don't know if you know that excerpt. It's like the hardest one. And there's this big argument. Do I play it on B flat clarinet or do I play it on A clarinet? So practice. And it's hard. So you play it, and it kind of sucks. And Ricardo says something like, "Ooh, well," and then he plays it on B flat clarinet because that's what I was playing it on. And then says, and it's amazing, right? It's like ready to go for an audition. And then he says, it works well on A clarinet too. And then plays it on A clarinet. And at that moment, you just think, maybe I'm not wired for this.
How do you come to terms with that?
Well, I mean, it's a freakish talent that's been highly cultivated, right? I mean, like it's the congruence of a couple things, right? It's not just that he's talented, It's that he put in work that would produce results for anybody, and he loves it more than anything. It's amazing. And so, like, and his ears are incredible. Like he can play just spontaneously orchestra parts that go along with the excerpts that are asked on lists
Right,
because his
right.
ears are so good. He has the ears and skills of a jazz musician. I don't think he's ever attempted to play jazz because I just don't think he's interested. It's my take. I don't quote me on that. But he has the skills. Like, oh, I hear this, boom, I'll play it. It's not there's no hesitation on his part, and that turns into a very very powerful presentation of what he does, and with a lot of confidence. I'm telling his story, but like there was an audition he took, that he got the job, and they had to play the Hina, and he played it, and the audition is that was the end of what was on the stand for him to play, and he took 5 steps off to get off stage, and they said, "Can you play it again?" Which is everybody's nightmare. It's like if you get through that at an audition, and Ricardo's internal response is, "Yeah," and he played it again. That was that. And like it's that sort of access to ability and confidence, and like I think the best way he did not say this as well. What I'm saying is he doesn't operate with hope. He does whenever he has his instrument in his hand, he's never hoping it comes out right. Like he hears what he wants it to sound like, and he plays it like that, and that's that. I mean, he's not like he doesn't ever stop to think like, hope this goes okay, because that's not in his wiring. Like when I stood up and played a concerto, there are moments where I think, here's the spot, because that kind of negative self-talk is not helpful.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to avoid. But Ricardo just doesn't have it, to my knowledge anyway. And I spent a lot of time with my clarinet out, and he has a clarinet out, and I got to sit next to him and play Mahler 8, and it was great. And I certainly don't know what's going on in his mind at any particular point in time, but I do know that he operates with an extraordinary amount of confidence.
What was, I don't know, what was your transition to from student to professional musician now in New York? What was that like for you?
Well, that was kind of a whirlwind when it happened because for some reason there's a particular person in town that started hiring me for a bunch of stuff, and it was good stuff, and it was like really exciting, and so I got to play in like a lot of the regional orchestras, and there was a lot more stuff happening at that point than there is now, and it was really it went from me being in school to me working, making a living playing music, and I didn't actually have to hustle all that hard in the beginning. The hustle came later.
What are some of your favorite gigs to play?
Well, I mean, clearly my favorite gig was February.
I still listen to it. I love it. I think it's good.
That was well, actually. I mean, I say that because it was the
Yeah.
convenient thing to say, but it's not a lie. I mean, that the thing I found every gig I've ever done anywhere in the world is that you know there's how long does it take to get there? How much does it pay? What do I have to carry? And how am I treated there? And what kind of players are there? And
Right.
so when you find a gig that you can average that out so that it's like a B, you got a good gig, right? It's a good gig. Because like a lot of times it's like playing like a gig that pays a lot with top players in the world is very stressful. There's a lot of stress involved in that, and then there's that all that self-talk of like, well, if I play well, I hope they'll want me back, or if I say the right thing, like all these things that don't matter. But it's hard because you want very much to be a part of this thing, and so it can be hard to feel like happy, you know. But like at February House, which was a show at the Public Theater in New York City, didn't pay well. It was great music, great people,
Yeah,
and we were treated well,
I think so.
and
Yeah,
and the commute wasn't bad.
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, it was the best, but it was, New York City, you got to do what you got to do. But you know, so that turned into like a thing that was like I was very very happy, and it wasn't the best paying gig in the world, and that doesn't matter at that point.
What are some other gigs that I mean, surely Philadelphia Orchestra, that
I
must
mean,
be.
playing with the Philadelphia Orchestra was amazing, and it was fantastic. Bad commute. Yeah, that was hard. That's the whole thing about freelancing, right? When you get asked to make money, you make money because there's going to be times you don't get asked to make money. Everything like sort of ebbs and flows, right? I mean, like my favorite days aren't related to specific gigs, in the sense that like a day where you go from like doing like a church gig in the morning to playing Radio City in the afternoon to playing a rock and roll show like we get to play. Like for me, like, I don't get to play a lot of like rock and roll baritone
Mm.
for good reason. But when I get to do it, like like to have a day like that where like you're sort of flexing everything that you can do, it's fun.
Yeah.
Right? Because like it feels like I am relevant and I get to do all the things that I can do. Because
How has the landscape of doubling changed since you've been here?
there's certainly, in an ironic twist, many more doublers now. I think I feel like there's less work and more people. But if there was this amount of work when I came to New York, I don't think there would have been as many doublers in a sense. Because like there was a time when there was a lot of work. I mean, there used to be jingles and
Yeah. So you
just
think there's less work for
absolutely.
doublers now?
Well, there's less work for everybody, but there's definitely less work for double. I mean, when I moved to town, like you had a show and you tried to not play it as much as possible because you had other stuff to do. And that was just something to guarantee that you had work all the time. No, not that it was just that, but I mean that's kind of how it functioned. But now, when you have a show, that's where you work, and
It seems that way.
that's a much different. Yeah, I agree. It seems that way. That's definitely seems how it goes. It's like Broadway is turned into the best gig in town. And when I moved to town, there are still people that wouldn't do them. And now the idea of not accepting the shows seems ridiculous. Right.
So one thing I really enjoy is your clarinet tone. I think you have lots to say about clarinet sound. How important is clarinet sound to you?
Well, I mean, I mean, the sound is kind of the most important thing that we do. I mean, 'cause that's what everybody hears all the time. I mean, everything else that we do, we have to make sound while we do it. So that's an important component to the whole thing. And part of making a good sound on any of our instruments enables us to have quality articulation, good pitch, all those things. Because like having a good sound puts us in a place where we're able to do all those things. Our muscles aren't in the right place. If we're making a bad sound, there's tension, or your tongue's in the wrong place, or to have good articulation, kind of almost have to have a good sound. Otherwise, you're not going to be in a place to actually have the quality, clean articulation, be able to play dynamically in a way that your pitch isn't changing, or to have like an even scale as much as any of our instruments can play evenly. It does need to be kind of in that realm. So to me, that's where everything really starts. That's the center of everything that we do.
What are some characteristics of good sound?
Well, I mean, when I'm thinking of what's a good sound, I mean, well, and I won't even say these are my words. These are Ricardo's words. A good clarinet sound is even, focused.
So evenness and focus. What kinds of things can you help us get more even playing, more focused playing?
All right, I got it. Here's the thing. Like nobody told me this. This is all me. The clarinet has 3 registers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're there, and then up higher than that, right? So we got the shallow, the clarion, and the altissimo, and this is called the clarinet. And I don't think that that's an accident, right? They don't call it a shallow, and they don't call it an altissimo. Here's the challenge in the progression of learning the clarinet, is that we all learn this. That's how we start. Everybody starts to play like that. So everybody's first notes in the shallow. So then when it comes time to play the clarion register, oftentimes our hands aren't big enough and it's a struggle. And then we do something different to get to the clarion register. And we think, okay, we do this. And then when it comes time to play the altissimo register, we do this to play the altissimo register. Right? Because our starting point, even unconsciously, is that. In the shallow register, we're used to that sensation. Not consciously, right? My position is every note on the clarinet is a long beat with no register key. That's the setting. The idea of it is to get me in a place where I play a long B with no register key.
Oh, okay, like an overtone.
Yeah. Right, so I missed it for a second, but then I know what to do and I know how to get there. So that, like, to me, that's the warm up. Is
Okay.
how do I get from not there to there? Because I know my air is right, and I know my voicing is right. If I have that right, so that note. Get my embouchure in the right place. Okay, so that's every note. Any change I make to play any of the other notes, that's the starting place.
When you're saying starting place, you mean physically
That
kind of.
any change I make is from that,
Okay.
right? If I change my tongue position, that's home base.
Okay.
Like that's where I go. That's where it is, right? My most important video is not my most watched video.
Are you talking about the one where
Yeah, you put the bell on your leg, and you play a B with the register key, right? So it looks a little funny, but you also get a very weird sound. And here's what it does: you have to use really good airspeed. You have to use good support.
What does good airspeed mean?
I don't know, but I know I have it if I can make this come out. That's the thing. That's the core of all like the things I try and teach, which is I can't explain to you support. I can't explain to you tongue position. I can't explain to you articulation, but I can tell you what exercises will reflect whether you have it or not. So if I can get that to come out,
And again, you're
I'm
playing
I'm playing all my fingers
middle
down.
B with no register key.
No, with the register key. This has to
Oh,
have
with
the,
register. Oh,
has
okay.
to have the
Okay.
register key.
All right.
Right. So because there's no place else for the air to come out.
Okay.
Right. So all the sound is coming out of the register key. So then you can play all the overtones on it. So it's weird. It's out of tune. It's kind of silly, right? So you can get all the overtones out, and then everything is basically set to play.
And that again was
that was without the register key, right?
register.
And which you could play all that. They get very fishy, right? It doesn't work like the saxophone to practice overtones in exactly the same way, and because the clarinet is missing every other overtone, right? So the saxophone is generating all the overtones. So it's generating root, root, fifth, root, third, fifth.
That's saxophone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the clarinet's missing every other one, right? So they get very squirrely and they're super out of tune. But the saxophone, you can use it as a pitch matching, and it can be very informative. I would say clarinet, you have to balance your overtone practice with pitch practice because you're going to be teaching yourself your ear a tune. So it's particular in that regard. But let me put it this way: in order to have this work, your reed has to be right, your armature has to be right, your voice has to be right, your air has to be right. This won't tell you which one's wrong, but it'll tell you if everything is set up right. Which is to play a note in the clarinet. I start on G, play it, and then I let the register key go. So you can't hear any difference in that one, right? But if you do that same thing on a long B, it's much different, right?
Yeah. So I imagine these kind of funky overtone exercises are good for evenness, right?
Well, it's good for evenness, and I think one of the challenges for doublers is knowing what note is going to come out of the instrument, right? Because if you're playing saxophone, you're playing flute, this makes a particular note. Well, but I mean, it makes a G. For me, when I pick up an E flat clarinet, the first note I play on it, I've got to really lock into what pitch is going to come out of it because it's different than what. So that by itself is a good reason to really do this kind of thing because it'll really lock you into like what note to expect to come out of your instrument. Because I think this goes down to the thing that's true for everybody, which is if you hear the sound you want to make, you'll figure out how to make that sound. And you can kind of dispense with a large part of if I do this, then this will happen. If I do this, then this will happen. Just hear it, you'll do all that. So the first exercise I have people do is just basically start on G, play it, let the register key go. Just go down to lower notes. To do it very quickly, I'll do it like in quick half notes.
Okay.
Now do it up. but they should. I would suggest like half notes at 60 for these. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
abbreviating this for that. So then the next move, like to get your sound even, I would say that like start on a low B flat, and then you use the two register keys, right? Because we've got this register key and that register key. F sharp's my worst note. Like F sharp's the most squirrely for me. So
I can't tell. It sounds great to me.
So to get to the actual like real thing, the idea would be able to play like half notes with half rests on just overtones, right? So you're gonna start on a G fingering, but you're gonna get a high D. It's gonna and I do this chromatically, and again I'm gonna do this faster just for this.
Okay.
No register key.
All the register keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be able to do it all the way down.
Yeah.
Then I'm ready to play. Like if I were given like 3 minutes to get ready to play, this is exactly what I would do.
It's getting something with your internal mouth cavity, your
Right.
tongue.
Everything gets
Yeah.
ready. Everything. I mean, everything that you need to play
Yeah.
is activated, and then the real one would be to do it on the next partial. I said it like
Real one. I thought we just did the real
the
one.
real one, but like the real hard one.
Woo!
So then
That's
you're
amazing.
practicing your
Yeah.
altissimo notes.
Yeah.
Because then when you put the real fingerings in, because the real fingerings are better, right? They actually are designed to produce the note.
All right. So we've covered a lot here on sound, evenness, focus. Anything I'm missing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the difference between somebody who plays the clarinet great is really all the focus of the sound.
Yeah. Can we
Yeah.
hear you play some? These are a set of new duets by a mutual friend of ours, Sam Sadigursky. And this one is entitled Aria. Can we play?
Let's play it.
All right.
Nice.
Ooh, ready.
Yeah. So should we talk about Sam? He's a tremendous doubler.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say like ridiculous, and a great improviser, and a great composer.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Sam Sadigursky.
Yeah.
These aren't out yet, but I'm sure they'll be
soon. Yeah.
they'll be in the store near you.
Yeah.
Before you.
Yeah.
It's been so nice to have you here. Great to talk to you. Is there anything else the good people at home you'd like to say, or anything else we need to know about the clarinet?
You know, the core of the whole thing for me is that like what is it that you want to sound? What is it that you want to sound like? And like how do you refine that ear first sort of thing? Because when we are learning an instrument, particularly as an adult, we can misunderstand that information can turn into ability. Information and ability don't go hand in hand. So you can know something, but still not be able to do that thing. And that's where I feel like a real process-based thing where you do an exercise and that exercise gives you the feedback, and then you figure out if you're doing that thing rather than I'm going to do this and get this result. Like, so I get the result and then figure out what it is that needs to change. And this is all based on did I get what I thought I was going to get based on what I heard.
Oh, that's well said. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Jay. Thank
you.
you at home for listening. Have a great day. Yeah. I want to thank Jay again for his time and thoughts. Again, please check out Jay's channel, Clarinet Ninja, in the link below. And please like and subscribe to this channel if you feel so inclined. Hope to see you next time.